Wayne Hospital to the royal family member H.R.H. Michael James and Imperial Queen Mother, Imperial Queen Mother Mary VII, the daughter of the late Imperial Monarch Iris Meyer III, Imperial Queen Mother Mary VII, the daughter of the African Imperial Monarch of the Sheba Kingdoms, Iris Meyer the second, 1916 to 2003, Salakia, the great descendant granddaughter of Na Amir. So that's N'_ARMER / Nimrod of Cush. Iris of Cush was the descendant daughter of migrated imperial lines, elites of the highest order. The sovereign imperial monarchical throne, if thrones, house of royal lines of Asar, excuse me, Kepra, Dakan Ra, Kasabu, Ra King, Eldad, Saba of Sheba, and Queen of Saba of Sheba, and Queen matriarchal throne of Nubia, Sudan, the Empire Imperial throne line, direct descendant, Imperial sovereign line of the Nubia Sheba Queendom. So as you can see, this seems like it's heavyweight. It's hitting heavyweight, okay? So let's see if we can find the interview and we will go from there. Oh, that's not it. Okay, let's put in Queen Sheba. Sheba the third. Queen Sheba the third. Let me flip y'all this way, right? I got a couple of things to say before we move on. A couple of things I want to say is that it's funny how she's called Queen Sheba the third, the Queen of Sheba, Queen of the South, right? She's called the Queen of the South, right? So it's also have me intrigued about the Deccan, right? because that sounds like where they said it's the icon, right? So I believe Drop just dropped a drop not too long ago when he was talking about Queen of Sheba and talking about how descendants of um descendants of Shemites, Hebrews, is our people went over there and they, you know what I'm saying, they had an empire and stuff like that. And I believe it was talking about in ancient Ghana, if I'm not mistaken. You know what I'm saying? So maybe this Queen of Sheba could be the real deal. Maybe we have a hijack sitting on the throne of Sheba. And then I'm going to show you something. Because she's not only just, the Sheba Queendom has a lot of territories, man. The Queen of Sheba, Throne of Thrones, has a lot of territories, man. A lot of territories, man. Let's go. A lot of territories, man. And wait till I break it down in these territories. Why I brought up China. Why it came to mind, because these territories that in these ambassadors or whatever they are called, or people that who are related to her and their ethnicity, you're gonna see it's a little fishy, but we dodging all hijacks around here. You already know though. You already know though. Tribe Nation, what it do? M.H.O.E, K.T.C. That's how we roll, baby. One tribe, one vibe. Okay. But she's called the Queen of the South. Yeah. So here she go. We're gonna check out this little interview with Queen of Sheba the Third. Let's check her out. Dodge all hijacks, and let's keep our dragonfly perspective. That dragonfly perspective, okay? Keep that dragonfly perspective, okay? Bear with a nigga. It's late, but it's early.
Nimrod's daughter was Sheba the first. And from Sheba the first, all the pharaohs and the kings and queens of our ancient empire became. From those empires, with the expansion of it, it formed more and more kingdoms and settlements throughout Africa. From there, you have the ancient Nok, the Yorubas, the Hausas, the Fulanis, forming the kingdoms covering Nigeria and those regions. So you're a direct descendant of the ancient line of kingdoms and the oldest kingdom line that has never been broken. So that is very, very brief history about the kingdom and the kingdom line.
Thank
My
you.
grandmother was Irish Mary II, and we're also from the lines of King Abu Sheba and Pharaoh Rebel III, and the great ancestral line of Tau I, which covers just about every black pharaoh in between those lines, and Tahakwa, Sabaka, Bianchi, and the Queen of Sheba, who was before the second, whose actual name was Zasabado, of her father's name Zasabado, and her name was Makiba. And she became the queen at 15 of the throne of Sheba, but her name was not Sheba. It's the throne of Sheba, yes. So that is the line which we're all a part of.
Thank you very much. I want to know further about the foundation itself, because I heard you talk about foundation of African kings and queens, princes and princesses coming together. I would love for you to brief me more on that, please, Your Majesty.
The African continent kings and queens, as earlier explained, the historical ancestral line, are today here as they were yesterday. That line has never been broken. It means as well, it's not a matter that we have a royal title and a royal history and a royal ancestry. It also means we have a royal responsibility. And that responsibility has not been changed because of the trials and the tribulation during the history of Africa until now. It means the responsibility is even greater now, and the challenges are even greater now. So we have to go back to understand the purpose of the foundation now. When the first countries or national countries in Africa was formed within the kingdom territories, because that is how it became a part of the constitution that the then pre-governments had to agree to in order to become free states was the constitution around the kingdoms had to be changed. Therefore, kings, queens, sultans, emirs, whoever of royal blood at that time had thereafter to be called, to be seen, to be accepted, and to respected now as chiefs. The whole power of the kingdoms was targeted to be broken. The national countries were formed, but the national countries were formed based on that change in the traditional relationship within Africa, because the kingdoms were seen as a threat, not to the national government, but to the external control. It did not take away from the influence and the power of the kingdoms, because until today we still have the kingdoms in Africa. And they're still exercising their purposes in Africa. In 1962 we had the OAU that was formed. In 1999 we had the AU legislation that was drawn up. In 2002 the AU that was formed. With that, the kingdom, or the federation, I called that the kingdoms must also have a federation formed to support and to umbrella all the kingdoms in Africa as a unity. Because the kingdom has a collective power. They have a collective responsibility. But they cannot exercise that responsibility if they do not have the platform on which to do it. And so the NGO was formed, Imperial House Foundation. It means Imperial Kingdoms Foundation. A foundation that was formed to represent each and every African kingdom and of royal blood, to support them in the facilitation of their responsibilities as monarchs. The federation was then formed to support the respective kingdoms within the respective regions with the tools necessary to be a good king, to be a good queen, to do their responsibilities. The foundation's second part was the development agenda. which means working with countries outside, working with the international governments, getting the international acceptance from those governments in order to execute a development agenda that holds in 100% participation by the kingdom, 100% voice of the kingdoms in collaboration with the national governments. That's the basic.
Okay. So, I heard you talk about poverty alleviation. Is the foundation into poverty alleviation programs?
That is the total purpose of the foundation.
Okay.
You cannot change poverty in Africa if you do not have the participation of the kingdom rulers of Africa. If you do not have a cooperative work between the kingdoms and the government, because Africa is one family.
Yeah.
It's one family.
Yes.
Every African belongs to a specific tribe. Every tribe is a nation. Every nation a part of a kingdom. You're one family. And all the collective kingdoms belong to one kingdom. It's called the kingdom of God.
Yes.
So, therefore, you must have unity in order to effect the poverty eradication on the African continent. And by that, you have, for example, the kingdoms in the rural regions.
Yes.
They need an infrastructure necessary for them to build commerce, to build trade. You need water infrastructure necessary for the farmers to be able to facilitate their purpose as farmers. You need seedlings for the planting of the crops. All of this has to be addressed. If that is not addressed, it means you will have a consistent domino effect of poverty, because the people of the rural regions are then forced to go to the urban regions looking for work. It means the farmlands deteriorates. It means for the government there's an influx of population within the city, and they have to cater for housing, the medical care, and everything else that goes to par with that. So it means the problem goes from one region into a smaller region, where you have a major problem now, which could be alleviated if we develop the rural regions. In order to do that, it means we must focus as African nation, not one state, but the trans-African nation, on the infrastructure. If the infrastructure is changed, if we have the necessary roads, the necessary railways, it means commerce starts. And once we have the commerce, the injection of commerce, it means we are on the first leg of the road to alleviate poverty.
Yeah. Sorry, because of time.
We might check out one more of Queen of Sheba. We might check out one more, and then okay.
قديمة من عمر التاريخ تزاوج السحر والغموض فيها فأنجبا.
Not bad. We won't be looking at that one. Okay. So that takes me here. Okay. We're digging on Queen of Sheba, right? Digging on Queen of Sheba. Digging on Queen of Sheba. Hold on, give me 1 second, family. while I look for this here, we're going to take a Levi. And then we'll come back. Let's take a Levi into that K.T.C. Keep the code. Keep the code.
To your feet, we be dripped and gold. K.T.C, that means keep the code. K.T.C, we do that no more. Cherokee, like the days of old. Vaccinate, we just tell them no. We the copper con original. President John, he been here before. Hosea 3, we already know. Grand Canyon, they be hiding acres. Killing purple like my favorite Lakers. K.T.C, that mean keep the code. Rest in peace, Kobe, he to go. Mama with them wings, that's a dragon. Used to bell up with my pants sagging. Now we redefining high fashion. Got that glow for whoever's asking. Chicken mango on your favorite corner. Need that work, we your favorite donor. Mint sauce to your front door. Make them holler, we don't want no more. Dropping up is our only option. For the con, we go get it poppin'. K.T.C, that mean keep the code. Code keep us here from head to toe. Last chance is your friend or foe. Cause we hijack free, we'll sink your bones. Sunni complex reppin' how we cool. Esteban Eagle shook, these niggas shoot. K.T.C, you know how we do. Put our power first, we'll never lose. Purple tears of joy, I love you. Purple crying cause red loves blue. And I put it on the AI. M.H.O.E, take it off. Yeah, we drippin' in that M.H.O.E. We paid the cost, now we beat the bone. Tribal music, we just let them know. K.T.C, that means keep the code. Tribal mafia, they gon' stupid. Getting smarter cause the drop is fluid. Fire started just to light it up. The coops they died trying to trap them up. Slid that treaty through the back door. Peace and friendship made it more and more. Grab my shield, wouldn't hesitate. While they argue heritage or hate. USA, call it Hijack City. PSA, you ain't fucking with me. OG Naga from the days of old. K.T.C, that mean keep the code. Swan Night, I'm a Bravo. That was back in 774. Forbidden histories, we got the book. M.H.O.E, we got the look. Baba's Ma, drinking Hawata. Now we can all say Allahu. K.T.C, that mean keep the code. Enjoy Sheba, chillin' in my robe. Let's clam Ross at your front door. You gonna pay your way and ask that go. Montezuma for the free throw. Nipsey Hussle, let the wings grow. He gon' hit us with that free flow. Hitting Crenshaw in a green low. Hit them switches for the free show. Carpet chickens in the street bros. 432, we the free show. K.T.C, that mean keep the code. K.T.C,
That mean keep the code, keep the code.
K.T.C, keep the code.
Keep the code.
K.T.C,
Keep the code, keep the code.
K.T.C, keep the code.
Code keepers. K.T.C, that mean keep the code. Keep the code. Before we go any further, I want to say that there is a need in Mississippi when we had the snowstorm here, it messed up their pipes and their drinking water as well, and they are still without water. Um, we're going to check out a little video right here. I'm gonna just let y'all know it's right here. We'll jump into this real quick before we move any further. Want to show some of how to them. I know they just had I know they just had a tornado, that did some damage as well, and so did a couple of more states. So we got to keep our ears to the streets, and keep our hearts out for the cons, because at this point in time, they need us. So we're gonna check this video out about Jackson, Mississippi, went without clean water for over a month, and I'm pretty sure now they're having problems. Um, so we're gonna check it out, and then we'll take it from there. Just want to show y'all what's going on in Jackson, Mississippi.
This is on the pallet. 80 on the pallet. Hold on, y'all. Hold on. It's been almost a month since the winter storm hit Jackson, and there are still people in the city that don't have clean or usable water. So there have been several water distribution efforts throughout the city. Today we're going to follow these volunteers and community leaders who are actually delivering water to people who need it. How many people do you think that this will cover? We're at 3 pallets, which is 240 boxes of water. So 240 residents for the first load. Not everyone is fortunate to have transportation to get out. And during the pandemic and also during the water crisis, many of the elderly and just poor people don't have transportation. So what do you think about the fact that the community is coming together to kind of take care of each other? Well, we understand that we can't wait on the government to come and save us, right? And determine how we're going to live, if we're going to survive. So we decided that we're going to save ourselves. The winter storm that got national attention for knocking out Texas's power grid also left nearly 40,000 residents in Jackson, Mississippi and surrounding areas without water for almost 3 weeks. Water has since been restored to most residents, but nearly 70% of the city is still under a boil water advisory. There's no timeline for when the water will be safe again to use.
The couple of weeks have been kind of hard, but we made it. Good prayer and everybody bringing us water and everything, but we did okay. Mm-hmm. The water is on. I was busy washing the dishes, but we can't use it, so we had to. I boil my water and put a little Clorox in it to sanitize it, to wash my dishes. This water right here is that I take a shower or a bath in, wash my face, brush my teeth.
Wow. There has been no federal disaster declaration in Mississippi. Despite repeated pleas to the state for help by Jackson's mayor, very little has been done. It's Shokwe Lumumba.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. Wanted to bring you some more water.
Okay.
All right. Where would you like me to put
It's
it?
in right there.
Okay.
For now, the city has to make do with whatever limited resources are available. Do you think that Jackson was prepared for a storm of that magnitude?
Well, we weren't ill prepared. We were ill equipped. No matter how much preparation we tried to wage in terms of making our residents aware. Our systems are our systems.
Jackson's water system has been on the decline for decades. The city relies on 2 aging water treatment facilities, one of which is over 100 years old and has limited funds for replacement. Jackson is scraping by on a $300 million budget.
Yet officials say it will cost roughly $2 billion to solve its overall infrastructure problems, with an estimated $1 billion alone needed to fix the lingering water crisis. Whose job is it to kind of come in and fix this? What will it take to get the system where it needs to be so that this doesn't happen again?
Well, it's a shared responsibility. It is my responsibility as mayor, and we invest millions of dollars each and every year in order to support our water infrastructure. That not only is it the responsibility of city leadership, but is the responsibility of state leadership to help support the city of Jackson. The city supports the state of Mississippi. However, our support back is not commensurate. And so we need more than just immediate money. We need a line of funding that helps support the things that we're doing.
But if this has been going on for so long, then why do you think the state is not responding?
I think we'd be less than honest if we didn't say that issues of race are not prevalent. It has been a tone-deaf response. Each and every year we put in our legislative package our need to have resources to support this.
And you think that this is falling on deaf ears because this is a city that's 85% black?
I think that is a contributing factor. Right, I think that is a contributing factor. And if you don't have people in the decision-making process that relate to the struggles of our community, then it often leaves us on the short end of the stick.
Tell me.
Get past this hijack and get right back at it.
In Mississippi's blackest city have dwindled along with its white population over the past 30 years. Here, flight to the burbs is real. White residents made up over 40% of the population back in 1990. And now, the roughly 17% that remains of Jackson's white population live predominantly in the city's affluent north side neighborhoods. We've been seeing reports that there are white suburban areas of the city that aren't facing the same issues as far as water is concerned as the more urban areas. Why is that?
The reality is that most homes, white and black, suffer from it. However, the issues of equity and race are real issues. The water moves through the system as the pipes were laid. And so people who could afford to pay the premium to live closest to those resources did so. The reason South Jackson is challenged in the way that it is because it's furthest from the plant. It's at higher elevation, right? So it takes more to get it from point A to point Z.
What happens if there is another decrease?
That if there isn't a significant advancement of support, then the likelihood is that we will suffer this sometime again in the near future.
Vice News reached out to Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves, but did
Basically,
not hear back.
your own.
What's to come weighs heavy on the minds of residents in areas like South Jackson, who've historically endured the brunt of the city's infrastructure woes. While waiting for help, they've been forced to find ways to survive without the most basic of needs.
I'm a 26-year-old father of two. I currently work at a warehouse right now, and I've been a resident of South Jackson this part for like 20 plus years, so this is kind of where I call my home. We didn't have water for about a week and a half, and now even though that the water is back, it doesn't really have many uses besides really the toilet like that anyway, because we're on a boil water notice. You still have to buy a lot of bottled water.
Is this the first time that you guys have dealt with water issues here?
Not really. Normally